Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for an exciting, excellent 2 versus 2 match here. We've got some interesting gamers on screen these days, and you know what that means? It means ZERG all around. This is a 2v2 on a team FFA map that is meant to sit up to 8 players, so you know it's going to be a long, drawn-out macro affair. This is Svartalfheim by BladehollowRWL, a map made way back. On the top right, we have Grasseater, who is joined by SosijLord. Together, they are the top right team, and I think SosijLord is Lemon. He is indeed Lemon ZERG, while Grasseater is Orange. So a nice little citrusy flavor there to that top right squad. On the bottom left, we have BladehollowRWL. He is the Blood ZERG. And he is joined by Tudor, the Japanese Violet ZERG. So there you have it. Not really a good theme for Blood and Japanese Violet, but maybe you think about Violet as a common thing that I do. There's probably a word for this, but I usually pull a word that sounds very similar to the word that I'm trying to say. Not quite a homonym, but maybe sort of similar to it. And then I just say the wrong word, and then I have to like pivot off of that word and pretend I didn't just say the wrong word and pretend that I really meant to say that word. If you watch my casting a lot and you pay attention to those things, you'll probably have figured that out by now. So maybe it's something like blood and violence. There you go. Game is lagging. Brain is lagging. We have a pool coming for Grasseater. He's already got his Larvosk. We've got a pool coming and then followed by what seems to be a second Larvosk there for his partner. And I guess that'll be the same thing over here. So our top team is doing pretty basic stuff here. The bottom team, well, BladehollowRWL is going for a much more, I guess you could say, greedy opener. You're very unlikely to get rushed down, so I don't really hate this idea. From Tudor going for the Hydra Den first means that you're slightly unsafe versus, a bunch of Zeths or whatever. But when you're up against, these kinds of players and you're on this enormous map, let's just say I don't think that there's going to be too many casualties in the early stages of this game. We might have just started watching a Cosmonarchy podcast together. Now, the Hydra will be the choice du jour for BladehollowRWL. I don't think he speaks French, but that's what I'm going to call it. And I guess that just means that generally speaking, between, Tudor's choice of Hydrith with 2 Larvosks, but like it's a slightly different order. It looks like he's just going to go for a Circuit at the ramp as well. This is kind of funny, isn't it? Grasseater just doesn't even bother scouting top left. He immediately goes for the cross scout. I wonder if I don't think that they configured the map to be like this deliberately. I'm pretty sure it's just random chance for you to spawn. Oh, you know what? No, that's not correct. It's not like Butcher's Corner where you can randomly spawn. Grasseater just knows, oh, based on the forces here, I know exactly where you spawned. So it's fixed spawn based on the forces. So they deliberately chose to spawn in cross positions, and now it looks like, with the Hydra then not finished, these Larvosks are going to go down. That Circuit was not sufficient to hold off the tide. Now, BladehollowRWL does indeed have plenty of Vespene behind this, but he is going to lose some workers and a lot of mining time in the process. Tudor tried to help out with a single Zero Core, but immediately got distracted, macroing back at home. And it looks like maybe SosijLord is thinking about doing the same level of pressure coming in to the bottom right. So there's already Hydras and a Circuit here. I really don't think it's going to have too much significance. He's trying to kill that Spraith so that he can regress it into something that will help versus ground, I think. But he is interrupted in the midst of it. There you go. Good pops. Good pops. You know what's really exciting, by the way, is I don't think I mentioned this, but a lot of our team games and FFAs and stuff, they are played throughout the week. And that means that you don't have to wait for a weekend war every other week in order to get in on the action. If you're looking to play zany games like this, maybe even funky custom game modes or certainly bizarre, FFA style stuff, you can definitely pop in and see what you find. Our Discord server is pretty active. And eventually, we'll achieve lobbies or whatever that are more public, and you don't have to be signed into the game specifically. You might be able to see it on a website somewhere. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Now, Grasseater does have a host of Hydras. It's going to be up to 9 there and looking to expand. Looks like SosijLord has already taken this base as his natural. Feels like this would be the more obvious candidate, but I won't begrudge them a choice. There is also a back base that has 1 geyser and 7 minerals, I believe. So based on that, we are looking at almost a normal base in the modern era. Worth pointing out that our mineral count is 10 minerals in the main, so very different saturation rules required to wrangle that sort of thing, right? So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, this small group of Zethar cores should have been seen by Tudor there, but I don't know if he's actually going to clear it or if he even clocked it. Sometimes you we see stuff on the minimap, or we recognize that vision should have been there, and then we just, you know, the players themselves didn't see that. There's plenty of that happening all over the place. Expansion coming down for Grass Eater, and indeed, there's a whole host of Hydras moving across. Now, with that being said, I don't think that BladeHollow's in any danger, but he might end up dropping his forward expansion if that's what Grass Eater targets. He has this back base set up. No workers there yet. I don't know how much talking and strategizing is happening. For example, these guys could have been on voice, or maybe they were just typing an ally chat and we didn't see it for whatever reason. Either way, there could be some communication between them, or they could just be playing vibes out, you know? That's also a possibility. It's also an option. Spreading the Kager out like a StarCraft 2 player. Grass Eater is hanging out, rallying some workers over there. His Hydras are massing up on the high ground. Going tier 2, says SosijLord. There's a little bit of team comms, and that does mean that this Hydra attack is kind of all on its own. So if I'm in Grass Eater's shoes, I kind of want to keep the Hydras alive, but instead he's just going to face tank that ramp. He's going to have to deal with that circuit, and you know he's not going to be able to kill hardly anything here. Tudor flanks him as well. I mean, this is pretty much a stab back, staved off. Now, BladeHollow he didn't lose hardly any units, right? He lost like the one Izira core that was actually Tudor's still there. You can tell that by the corpse coloration, right? You see the yellow fragments of such there for Tudor cleaning up those SosijLord Zeths. And he's also going for tier 2. So the player that's closest to the right side of the map for both of our teams are both going to tier 2. Back base being taken by SosijLord. And look at that. BladeHollow is also going to be grabbing his Iral Iris. It's funny. I feel like Grass Eater is notorious for tech rushing. He loves going to tier 2 and spamming like 80 mutas or whatever. He apparently is not doing that this time around. He's playing around with a different strategy. His username this time around, macroing the worst. I don't know if that's him trying to will into existence improvement in the macro department. Maybe he's a little bit down on his luck or something. We do have a Zorka Shred coming, maybe a little bit out of sync there with the tier 2 hatching if SosijLord was trying to evolve that so he can go for the Ultralisk equivalent that we have in Cosmonarchy, the Ultra Core. Very, very solid unit. By the way, I should have probably said this closer to the beginning of the game, but if you guys are all here watching this gripping 2v2 where it's a ZERG-only match, and we are going to see some late-game tech, it looks like, tier 2 hatching for multiple players now, definitely let me know if you guys are excited about the incoming tournament here. Acropolis number 3 will be a feature that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. Let's just put it that way. It'll be a great time. There will be much fun had by all. And there's probably going to be a lot of Zergs. There won't be any Ascozis. Ascozi will arrive for Acropolis number 4. It'll arrive before then, of course. But the first Acropolis to feature it will be Acropolis number 4. And that's in keeping with 4 races. So I like that synergy. Symmetry. Finally, Grass Eater will join the Tier 2 club. It'll be about 60 seconds before that comes up. A lot of hatches coming down for BladeHollow. Wants to keep his money low. Of course, floating a decent amount. And I guess you could say the same about Grass Eater. You don't want to live up to that ID there. Macroing the worst, that's not a name you want to live up to. What's SosijLord up to in the interim? A lot of workers for everybody in the lobby. Tudor obviously bringing up the rear in the count, and BladeHollow is kind of making up the difference. If you took 10 away from BladeHollow and gave it to Tudor, everybody would be roughly even here. You could say that the upper team here is slightly more, set up in that respect. But that could change in an instant, right? We got people making workers all over the place. Good gas caps coming out of SosijLord. He's going to have a very nice tech economy as he takes both of the geysers inside his main base. That's another feature of the mains in this base that are a little bit interesting by comparison. There's not a ridge in the main. It's just a straight-up double gas. I will say that one thing I would have maybe predicted out of this this round here is that I would have definitely expected a lot more, kind of like spreading the Zethra cores out that both SosijLord and Grass Eater have done so far in this game, but I thought that would be happening much more often. I'm a little bit surprised. A rare Balethol tile makes an appearance. We love those. And also worth pointing out, this mega base in the middle. Yeah, so you want to take it with like town centers here in these little spots, right? But you also can use like advanced workers. Obviously, Protoss has a field day with that area if they can make about 1,000 artisans. Finally, we're seeing some spread out of the Zethra cores, just kind of looking around at all the bases, seeing what they can find. Convolisks were indeed achieved by SosijLord. He has not evolved any of his tier 1 nodes into tier 2. And Tudor's third base, or fourth base rather, is being heckled. His third base has his Spire. Well, Nebelheim really likes that. SosijLord is going to heckle this this Droleth, and so there's some units being spawned up there, but the Tetzoricors are revealed. Ah, the Rillarocors are here. Yeah, I guess that's fine. Why not? A big worker rally here for Grass Eater, expanding towards the upper side of the map. He's got Zethicors just watching out, scouting ahead. And it looks to me like I'm seeing a convergence of like camera positions. I have a feeling that armies just got dispatched. BladeHollow is indeed sending his conga line across the map. It's a rather bizarre parade. Definitely don't want to go to that one. ZERG rights, etc., etc. The Bactyl drop from Tudor. Need I say more? Bactylisks are not a unit you should be dropping. Unless you want to control them really, really well. But you know what? This is a very expensive scouting run. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really seem to accomplish too much. I mean, the problem is that Bactylisks, the closer they get, the worse they are. Because their attacks only bounce if their projectiles travel to their enemy. So I guess you can try to micro them with drops. And you can kind of try to drop behind them. But that's about it, right? So you gotta drop far away from whatever you're attempting to kill, and you don't really have a lot of room to do that when you're dealing with Worker Raid, right? So BladeHollow pushing in a little bit further forward. We do have a Zorkta Shroud coming for Grass Eater. Maybe feels like he might want some Lakes. I think that this force out here will trade fairly cost efficiently against what Blade has, but it doesn't appear that that's exactly where Blade is going. Instead, he's kind of arcing northwards. There is a Zethicor watching that for grass, so I guess, you know, this offense will continue to be spotted out over time. What is Grass Eater's response? He's still kind of teching into something that he can use. His army size is very, very small right now. SosijLord is going to have to kind of carry. He's got a lot of mutas and a good amount of other such units. And BladeHollow is going to come in without any cliff disadvantage, charging forward to break down the advanced defenses. This is obviously where the Khaz'Trith needs to be brought down ASAP. The Tetzoricors are cleaving a lot of the damage, and the Rillarocors on both sides, ensnaring the muta flock up top. The Bactylisks are going to be working okay versus those, but it feels like as the front line dies here, BladeHollow's attack is almost surely going to be cast aside into the dustbins of history. He had a couple more units, 27 Iziricors left on another side that he could have maybe done something about. We have Tier 3 coming for BladeHollow, and Zethicor may watch that later on. Now here comes Tudor. He has teched into the Ultra Core. We talked about that earlier. Muta's coming up to reinforce his Bactyls. Seems like he's got a good layer here. The Matroleth was trying to get an infestation off. That was never going to happen. But the Hydra count is high enough. I think he can bust through these Ultra Cores. He just needs to focus them down. The ensnares coming from both sides, but it seems like they've fallen quiet as the last of the Zoruyus end up getting cleaned up. So this force should indeed be taken care of without any issue. We got just a small handful of those Iziricors causing some trouble. BladeHollow trying to come in from the top rope, but again, there's not enough oomph, not enough DPS to really break this position. If he had killed that Khaz'Trith a long time ago, maybe that would have been a bit of a different story, but as it stands, it is not gonna happen. Mutas are continuing to fly in. See what they can find up here. Whoa! That's funky. Well, I guess they found an unprotected base. You know, when you get to this kind of base count, it's quite difficult to really do too much about that and constantly patrol every single base. And, you know, you do want to staff everything with a lot of static D. But is it always easy? Not quite. Now, Tier 3 is not on the way for anybody other than BladeHollow. This is kind of the secret weapon of our bottom team. We'll have to see if his Tier 3 can be leveraged for anything in particular, because it's about 80% of the way done. Now, it should be scouted out by that Zethicor. He's going to have to fight it with just workers. He will be able to clear it, but not before losing 2 gas miners. Might end up being pretty significant. Now, Grass Eater has not actually cleared the space out. He's coming in with these Arcavricors. They do AoE splash with their air attack as well as their ground attack, so the Mutas are never going to stand a chance versus them. They're a little too beefy. Muta's now raiding Tudor's natural expansion here on the low ground. That's pretty bad. What's he going to do about that? Remember, his Mutat Spire is on his third base, very vulnerable to being picked off. He doesn't seem to have much of anything in the military department. He only has his Mutas on the opposite side of the map, and it's way less than what we see SosijLord fielding. So this is definitely going to be a dead base. And remember, there's more ground units where that came from. Mostly Zoruyus. There's some Matraval units there. I don't think any of the Matroleths survived. and a bunch of Hydras here for Grass Eater. Can also reinforce at some point. That Oxylcesian is just going to get focused down immediately. Very unfortunate there. Now, Vithrilisks have arrived, but there's nothing to back up their power. Okay, now some mutas are hatching. This could be a very, very powerful turnaround here, depending on how things go. It doesn't quite look like he was able to focus them down, and it was a little bit of a split from SosijLord to prevent the debuffs from stacking on everything. That was a little unfortunate, but definitely like a critical mass of mutas here. Hydra's deployed to try to fend him off. 11 Ultra Cores coming up for Grass Eater. And while BladeHollow does have some backdills starting, he doesn't have any tier 3 tech. He's just now going to finish up his Mutat Spire somewhere. For my money, it's probably down here. There it is. But it looks like this is a little bit too much here. Tudor has nothing in the can. He had so much money, but didn't spend any of it. And he's barely holding. It's a Hydra v Hydra fight for multiple players, but here come the Zarkavicors. Everybody's gangster in their Hydra fights until the Zarkavicors show up. And yeah, there's just not really anything here, right? Everybody's got a ton of money. Nobody's really spending. I guess SosijLord is kinda, but everybody is just doing lots of gaming. Spending down their cash is not really of a concern. Sausage does not have that many that much Vespene in the tank, right? So there is that. But even these side bases are not really going to help him too much. Tudor is going to try to expand now, but Mass Vilgoricor, as great as it is, as funny as it is, it's not really going to turn the needle here. There's so many air units. He's just going to completely ignore them. I love the offensive Khazitrith allowing the mutas to attack even more targets at once. Well, this is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Team 2v2, you know, ZERG only, and GG has to be called. He got to tier 3, but he didn't leverage it at all. And so that is a wrap. Hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of Team ZERG action. We definitely had some very silly antics. I have some more team games and FFAs queued up, thanks to our homies that continuously play. Let me know in the comments if you guys prefer team games versus 1v1s. And, you know, I'm definitely going to keep doing a balance of them, but trying to figure out how many of these non-1v1 matches to start sprinkling through in the weekly uploads here, the daily uploads. So thanks for tuning in. We got more Cosmonarchy coming tomorrow. GG.